This is Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle.
Welcome back to Inside the Wolf's Den with your hosts, Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle. Today we have a guest with us, Tony Cline. How are you, Tony?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. So just a quick bio on Tony. So Tony is a seasoned property management industry professional with over 2 decades of experience. He has been in the industry since 2000 and has been instrumental in the growth and optimization of many property management companies as a business owner, entrepreneur, coach, and consultant. So again, Tony, thanks for joining us. I'm really excited to have this interview with you. You're a wealth of knowledge. We have a lot of property management companies listening to the show. And I know you've sold a property management company just recently. So I would like to just get right into it. And Tony, if you want to go ahead and start off by give us a little background on yourself. How did this all get started?
Sure. So I'll take you back to 1992, but we're not going to stay there for long. But I got out of college and I had an opportunity to join a real estate firm. I did. I had no clue what I was doing. And I sold 2 homes and in about the first 6 months. And one of them was to my mom. And my wife said, you know what, I think it's time to get a real job. And so I had an opportunity to leave that space and join a company that was pretty cutting edge, high tech at the time. And we did document and data management, workflow management for engineering, manufacturing, and Fortune 100 military installation clients. And so I kind of went into that space till the year 2000. And then when I had an opportunity to buy a property management and real estate brokerage, you know, in the year 2000, real estate agents were checking their email maybe once a week. And, you know, it was a lot of people didn't even, you know, they were still like just fax me stuff. And so I found that I had this expertise from this other industry, this other life that I could apply into the property management space. And from that, setting up systems, policies, it really became something that I just dug into and really enjoyed. And so I've spent the last 22 years in that space.
Wow.
Yeah. The wealth of knowledge. Can you, over those 22 years, I'm sure you learned a ton as a business owner and what business owners face every day. So can you share a little bit about maybe some of the challenges you had to overcome, being in business for yourself and whether it's either just as business in general or specific to the property management industry, and then how you overcame them?
Yeah, I think as business owners, especially young entrepreneurs, when we get into the game, we're hungry for business, we're hungry for everything, and everything looks like opportunity. And I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned, I think if I could go back and do it over, would be to more quickly define what my target client was, because I was taking on things just to have the business, to have the income. But what it did was that would make it so that my business was fragmented, and I'd have these policies for this type of client, these policies for this type of client, and so I think one of the big lessons is really spend time defining who's your target client, and as importantly, who's not, so that you have the strength to walk away when something smells like money.
Yeah. And it's hard to scale right at that when you're fragmented like that. It's difficult. I know, because we've been there for sure.
Oh yeah, we're it's just bring them in, right?
And how did you do your business development, or did you have a business development manager? And can you speak to like how? I think that's the difficult part, right? Is they just want to get paid, right? They're salespeople, or you. And how do you say no to those clients that you know is not your ideal client?
Sure. Yeah. In the very beginning, I was the business development manager. I was the one out there looking for clients, and we got really good. I think I got lucky because I started in a market. We were in downtown Denver, so we were really focused on the high-rise lofts and condos, the warehouse conversions, those kind of things. And I developed this message that, you know, if it's too far to walk, it's too far. But if I could walk to it from my office, I'm your guy. Why would you go with anybody else?
Right.
And so we really got laser focused on this brand of we're the downtown folks. And it made it easy for us to kind of share that message of what was our target client and what wasn't. And so then when I started hiring people that were business development managers, they had a really clear portfolio of what was, our client and what wasn't. And like you said, they're a good salesperson wants to sell. And they want to collect, they want to, collect their income. They want to make sure they're serving people. But there is that weird divide between we want to do what's right for operations, but we also, as a salesperson, want to close business. And so really defining that and having it in writing of here's our target and here's not. And we wound up actually hiring multiple business development managers using that same framework.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You kind of hit something that I really like what you said, being laser focused. I think a lot of times property managers or companies, they don't get laser focused on their niche, right? And they're kind of everywhere. And then they're like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? And so I love that you were really laser focused on that. But I want to kind of touch on the communication aspect of it. So, communication is critical in property management. Could you provide some best practices for effective communication?
I think initially, and this may come off a little strong, but stay with me. I think initially it's all about posturing and knowing your value and your worth when you're speaking with your clients, that you need to posture yourself or position yourself as the trusted advisor.
Right.
Like they're coming to us for advice, not to tell us to go pick up bring the trash cans in from the curb because their tenant moved out. Like it's not that it's below us, but that's not what they hire us for. They hire us to make decisions on their behalf. And so as far as that communication goes, really getting, again, focused on the clients you serve so that in your marketing and your messaging, you're addressing specific needs and desires that type of client has, and you're providing the solutions that they're looking for. And when you're working with a client that's already on board, I think it's really important to make it as easy as possible for people to say yes. I truly don't think that the majority of people that hire us want to micromanage us. They just feel like they have to because they don't know any different. So, for example, if a refrigerator goes out, we could communicate with a client, hey, your refrigerator's out. It's over our authorization threshold. What do you want to do? That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is your refrigerator went out. We sent a vendor out. It's going to be about $550 to replace the compressor. It's about 10 years old. Or we could apply that same $550 to a new refrigerator. That one is about $1,300. If we don't hear back from you by X, we're going to do what you hired us to do, which is to maximize your long-term returns and minimize the risks of being an investment property owner. And we are going to go ahead and purchase the new refrigerator and have it installed for your resident. Yeah. And so, you make it as easy as possible to say yes. They hear that and they're like, okay, these guys have got it. It builds trust. And then they're backing off and not having to lean in and question everything that you do.
Exactly. When you're building that trust and that relationship, then they don't question the pennies that they're trying to save or getting the extra estimates because they think that they can get it out there cheaper. So it's so true.
Yeah, I love that. So we'll probably make a clip of what you just said and send it to our staff because it's like, it's hard. It's number one, it's probably finding the right individual, but it's something that like Brett does. We do customer service workshops once a week, every Thursday. And one of the things that he really hits on is what you just talked about. And he refers to it like command and control. And, but it's that same posturing, same, and it clicks for some people and some people it just seems to be a struggle.
And when in reality, when you are providing the value to the client, right, they're not going to say no to certain things. So if you raise, you add a residence benefits package or owner's benefits package, whatever it is, they're not going to bark and complain because they trust you as the advisor. They know that you're the expert, right? And so just building that relationship goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to position yourself as the expert and the authority, but you actually have to come from a position of, I may make mistakes. I will make mistakes,
right?
But I'm coming from a place where I am going to do the right thing by you. So if I make a mistake, I'll make it right. If I give you advice, it's because I truly believe it. It's not because I'm trying to make an extra spread on maintenance or whatever. And I think your clients will feel that. They'll understand that if you're looking out for them, even if you make a mistake, you'll make it right. So I'm going to let you do the work that I hired you to do.
Yeah, that's great.
Can you speak to some? So I mean, it's going to take the right individual, right? The right property managers or the right, whether Discord or whatever person that's going to execute on what we just talked about. So can you share a little bit about maybe some of the key skills and qualities you found over the last 20 years of people that really excel in this industry?
It's a good question. To excel in this industry, you have to have thick skin.
I knew you were going to say that.
Right? You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. You can't take it personal. But you also need to realize, and I think in our industry, our residents get a bad rap. I see a lot of memes on the internet of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rent due. It's like,
right.
we're excited that it was the first of the year, not because it was the first of the year, but because it's January 1st and the tenant has to pay rent. And It's like, these people hire us to provide a service for them.
Absolutely.
Like I know our client is the landlord, but on the resident side, we're providing valuable services to them on behalf of our landlord and on behalf of ourselves, our company. And so I think it's putting yourself in the position of the person that you're speaking with and really having that empathy of, yeah, of course, it's 75 degrees out and the air conditioning goes out. It's not life or death. It's not an emergency situation, but the residents paying their rent, they're doing their part.
Right.
So having that compassion and that empathy, trying to communicate with them from a place of that's their home, that's their safe space, especially as we just came through COVID and, the world was supposedly this scary place and the only place that they had to go was their home. And, that's their place of, again, I hate the word, but that's their safe space,
right?
And so treating it like that, you can get a lot from a resident or from a landlord if you just come at it first and listen and then provide that solution. Again, make it easy to say yes, give them options. So I would think that that's it. Not taking things personal, being okay with when they get upset with you has nothing to do with you. So just provide a solution and then move on to the next one. And then go home at night and don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which sometimes that's hard when you have people screaming at you. But yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said because I think that, we should be providing that extra level of service to our tenants just like we do to our owners, because if they're happy and they stay there longer term, then we keep the owners longer term. So love that.
Yeah. So I know, being in this industry for 20 some years,
things have changed.
Yeah, right. You've seen it evolve. So can you share, what have you seen change over the years, technology wise? The industry has evolved, quite a bit. And then kind of where do you see it going over the next several years?
Yeah. So, a lot has changed over the last 20 years. I actually I have a presentation that I do to some of the trade organizations, and it's called 36 Months to Extinction or Evolution. And, 36 months is 2 iterations of Moore's Law. And Moore's Law just says that every 18 months, the processing power of a computer chip doubles. And so that's 2 iterations of that. And so basically, in theory, what's possible doubles every 18 months. And we saw that with email, then the online reviews, then self showings and automated lock boxes and single code lock boxes for individual appointments. The automation of all of these business functions. I think a lot of that has changed, but I want to kind of spin the question a little bit and focus on the one thing that remains the same. And the one thing that remains the same is that we're in the service business.
Yeah.
We provide a service. So all of these technologies and all of these things need to be utilized to help you deliver a better service.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've seen in that I don't necessarily like is this fee maxing thing where it's like, let's squeeze every nickel out of every opportunity. And I think it's good to maximize your value that you deliver. And if you maximize the value you deliver, then obviously you're able to charge more for the services you provide.
Right.
So I like to see that little pivot on that, as opposed to just seeing where we can squeeze a nickel for the sake of squeezing a nickel, because your clients know when you've got them over a barrel, and they're going to back off a little bit on how much loyalty they have and how much grace they give you when you mess up.
Yeah.
I heard a podcast the other day, as this week, I think, with as business owners, we really got to look at the sandwich that we're putting out, or and if we're putting out a crappy sandwich, it's like, it's not, and you're trying to just maximize the fees and all that, but you're putting out a crappy sandwich, you're not going to probably exist in 36 months, but it's like we're forgetting the point of,
it's all about the value.
Yeah, the experience and and we're missing that part of it. And that the people that focus on that and put out a really good sandwich, usually, you can charge more, you have better margins, in most cases, but we're losing sight of the quality of our product or service for what we do. But you have a question for me?
Yeah, well, I kind of wanted to kind of switch gears. I know you just recently sold your property management company, and so it's something that Shawn and I have not sold a business yet. So I kind of would like to, pick your brain on and maybe discuss that process and how, now that you've sold it, how does it feel?
I love it. We were talking just a little bit earlier about how a lot of business owners, their business becomes part of their identity. And it's like, well, if I'm not that business owner, if my identity is not tied to that, where's my identity? Who am I? And back at 2017, we were Cliff Dwellers Real Estate for the first 17 years that I owned the company. And we rebranded to Home Vault Property Management. And so at that time, I started to separate a little bit. And then we took Home Vault, and a couple of years later, we merged with some other companies throughout the US. And so we were operating in 6 states and 7 different markets.
Right.
And so I had released a little bit of my control there as well. And so by the time I got to the point where we decided to sell the business, I had already separated where my value was coming from the business itself. And so it was easier for me to analyze, is this business serving my life the way I want it to anymore? And I got to the point where it wasn't, and it made sense to sell it and really pursue some other passions. And the reason we did our merger in the first place was, and again, I'll tie back in that 36 months to extinction or evolution. There's so much change going on, not just in our industry, but every industry.
Right.
And that's converging on every aspect of our life. I want to be the person that's helping people build their business and figure out how to navigate that. And that's why I went from being a property management company owner to being a coach and consultant, because I'm helping them, the ones that want to stay in the game, figure out how to navigate that as maybe a smaller company. as opposed to working with companies that are ready to sell their business and exit the game.
Right.
I like the game.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about, as much as you can, but what was it like to go from being I'm assuming like the single owner, the main one calling the shots and control,
To having partners.
to then the partnership, to talk about that evolution, then to, I guess, making the decision to fully sell it and exit, and was everybody in agreement at that? But I'm just curious, like, as far as that evolution, I could see where you, I guess, had time to kind of disengage. So it was maybe easier for you to, it wasn't from you were fully in control and it was fully yours to exit. So you had time there and some separation, but
Right.
just explain, I guess, that first evolution and then the final one.
Sure. So when we did our merger, there were 6 of us partners, and I had gotten some advice that 6 partners is way too many.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back, I should have listened to that advice.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is not that any of us were bad people. I still talk to almost everybody, but the issue was when you have 6 different visions, and we're all running different companies, and then you merge that together, you have these different visions of what it means to provide good service, what your target client is. When you're operating in that many different markets, basically across half of the United States, the markets are different, the weather is different, everything is just different.
Mm-hmm.
And so you go from being the one person that makes all the decisions and calls all the shots to somebody that is a minority voice at that point. It doesn't matter, what the issue is, you're one of 6 voices.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I realized, I feel like I really want to give and see results. And I was in a position where I felt like I was not giving the results to our end users or our clients that I wanted to give.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we were approached to sell the company, initially all 6 of us said no. But then, the offer changed, and we decided that it would make sense to sell.
Mm-hmm. Do you, based upon, in your consulting now, and so you get to see a little bit of all of it, and you've lived it. Do you recommend in your opinion, like the smaller, high service, probably in some cases, in a lot of cases, very profitable at a certain size, a very profitable, smaller boutique, I guess is the right word, firm versus trying to compete, with some of the larger, like,
Tech companies.
and private equity companies that are out there, and trying to get to their size by partnering and doing that way. Where was the strength and maybe the profitability or you don't have to get in numbers, but I'm just saying, like, what was better for Tony at those different, does that make sense? Or
Sure.
Yeah.
So my situation might be slightly different than others, but back in 2006, I got really sick. And, up until that point, I was a super big control freak. I had to hear, I wanted to rehash every phone call because I only heard half of it, which, if I had an employee sitting there, I could only hear what they were saying. And then when I got sick, I basically had to figure out, how am I going to run this company without being able to run the company?
Right.
And so I really had to lean into delegating. There was a period of about 6 or 8 months that I was out of the office more than I was in. And so it really gave me this different view on business of how can I get the most work done without me having to do any of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I could control everything and do all of the work and sort of put my hands on everything, or I could bring in a great team. I could be really good at focusing on the vision and over communicating the vision of the company, and then hiring people that are better at
Right.
Doing the things that I'm not so good at. And so from what I see moving forward in the marketplace is if the name of my company is the PM Success Company, and we help property management entrepreneurs achieve success however they define it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that that's important is there are some people that want a small lifestyle business.
Right.
They want to stay small and know the name of every client and be able to, they're comfortable with the income. And then there are other people that are, no, I need to maximize my income, maximize my revenue because I have these other long-term goals.
Mm-hmm.
But what I kind of see is there's this divide in the marketplace. I think you can survive as a small entrepreneur, small company, or there's an opportunity to join one of the bigger firms, maybe one of the larger national aggregate companies. But the ones that stay in the middle and don't identify who they are,
Mm-hmm.
they're not a small boutique, high service, high touch company, but they're also not big enough at scale to be a nameless, faceless, employee driven company.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's those ones in the middle that I feel like really have a challenge of figuring out which way they're going to go and leaning into the service they provide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel the same, and I agree with you. And it's an awkward, we're part of a franchise, which is a really large organization, but it's a different. There's definitely that awkward space, and to me, sometimes it's like it makes more sense to be at the boutique, lifestyle type of. It's hard though as an entrepreneur because you're always like growth and bigger, but that doesn't always necessarily mean better all the time.
Yeah.
So, but tell us a little bit. I was curious about what led. Can you share a little bit of what led to you? You getting ill, and then your fitness journey that started after that. And kind of. I know you're an avid runner and competitor, and so I'd love to get into a little bit of that. The mindset, because I watch you running all the time. It's like, I don't know how this guy does it.
In the cold in Colorado.
His icicles dripping from his beard, and he's just still running. But kind of tell us a little bit of what happened, and then kind of what life changes you made, and then the changes you had to make to maybe just to survive or just a better lifestyle. So,
yeah, well, we touched on it a little bit with when. Again, back in 2006. So this is a long time ago, but that's when I was trying to figure out how to keep my business alive, how to keep it up and running.
Mm-hmm.
I had 11 agents in the office on the sales side, and then we had our staff on the property management side, and they were used to seeing me every day. They were probably in the beginning happy that I wasn't hovering over everybody, trying to micromanage. But it got to the point where I found myself in one of our investment properties, laying on the floor in pain. And I'm like, something has to change. And so I went to the doctors, and the short version is they really couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I have celiac, so it's just I have to eat gluten-free, but it was misdiagnosed. And so my body was basically starving itself and triggering all these things. But the doctor was like, we just think you need more exercise. So kind of out of spite, just to check it off, I walked around this park by my house. It was a 0.6 of a mile walk. And I just started going a little further and a little further. And one morning before work, I walked 8 miles and realized I really liked it. It was making me feel better. And it was giving me time away from the office to really think. I think that's one thing that people miss when you talk about, being in an exercise program or even just walking out in the woods or whatever. It's not only what you're doing, it's what you're not doing.
Right.
And you're not sucked into answering phone calls, answering emails. Your brain is in a different space, which allows you to be more creative in your problem solving. And so I ran my first marathon, then my first 50-miler, 100-miler. Now I'm running what's called the Triple Crown of 200. So on the 19th of this month, I'll line up at the start of the Tahoe 200. And then 17 days later, I'll do the Bigfoot 200. And then like 6 weeks later, I'll do the Moab 240.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Talk about the training with that. I mean, geez, that is crazy.
Insane.
Well, where that applies back to the business, though, is I think people in business sometimes look for this monumental event that's going to propel them forward, and it's not. It's the tiny little incremental progress that you make day to day with focused intention, and incremental progress over time equals incredible results, regardless of what you're focused on. It's the little basic things that get you there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, so it was just a journey of you just slowly from when you could barely walk to just adding onto it every day until it became a passion of yours. Is that what?
Yeah. And I think I got lucky because I think a lot of people that think, oh, I'm going to start running or I'm going to start exercising, they know somebody that's doing it. So they're like, well, I'll go out for a run with them. And they go run 3 miles at an 8 minute per mile pace, or they try to, and it kills them and they hate it, and they're like, this running is not for me. And for me, I started with baby steps, literally like steps walking. And my first run was a 5-minute run after I started, walking and deciding to run. So it was just easing into it, continuing to move in the direction that I wanted to eventually go. And one of the things you had asked about, do you want to stay a small mom and pop, or do you want to be a big business? And people need to think through that. There are a lot of people that are using their business to fund a lifestyle, but yet they never get to experience that lifestyle because they're so sucked into their business.
Yeah.
And I kind of got to the point where I'm like, this business doesn't serve my lifestyle. And entrepreneurs, we're smart people, we're going to make a lot of mistakes, but we're also dumb people where we don't ever quit. And so it's like, we're willing to try something again. We're willing to try something different. And so I think I got to the point where, and I think a lot of people need to really take the time to consider this. Are you working and serving your business, or is your business working and serving you? And if you come up with the wrong answer, it's okay to kind of walk away from things because we only get one shot at life.
Right.
Yeah. Talk about the mindset to run I can't even imagine just the 50 or a marathon even, but to do what you're doing, and especially talk about the mindset shift. What do you have to overcome, and I'm sure there's certain points in the races, right, that your mind's telling you or your body's telling you
to stop.
You
can't do it anymore.
Yeah. How do you overcome that? And what do you tell yourself when your body's telling you to stop? I can't do no more, but you obviously can. You just got to push through it mentally.
Yeah. The running and I'll jump up to say the 100-mile distance, because there's so many more things that you need to consider. Your nutrition, you got to get that right. Your hydration, in a 200-mile race, you're trying to figure out, am I going to sleep? I slept a total of 4 hours kind of scattered throughout the race. But all of these things, they're all going to fall apart. And, a friend of mine in the racing community, they say the race doesn't start until the wheels fall off. And the wheels fall off for everybody, right? So it's just, if you get a few miles in before they start to fall off, then that's great. But just realizing that you're not the only one that's going through these challenges. Everybody's going through challenges. So the ones that are going to be successful are the ones that can face the challenge. And I say that ultra running is more about problem solving than it is about running. And so it's knowing that you're going to want to quit. It's knowing that something that hurts in the beginning that you think is going to throw off your race winds up being fine, and something that you had no pain for the 4 months leading up to it in training all of a sudden hurts, and you're going to have to figure it out on the fly. And I think the mindset is, again, going back to if I can take one more step, I take one more step. And it's the same in business. If I can take one more step, I take one more step. And I think that's where the mindset comes in.
Love that. Tony, if you were just starting out and can go back in your early 20s, what advice would you give yourself?
I think I could have fast-tracked where I got to in life by making it less about me and more about the people around me. Something I learned, a kind of a secret, I guess, in business and in life, is that if you want to get where you want to go, if you can help push other people in the direction of where they want to go, it kind of breaks the trail for you. I don't know if that makes sense, but like focusing on helping other people takes your mind off of you. And there's actually there's some studies about the chemicals in the brain that are created when you really live in a lot of gratitude. And so when you're thankful for the progress or the small piece that you had in somebody else's story, it's easier. Things fall into place. The more you focus on helping other people succeed, the more successful you are with a lot less effort.
I can totally see that passion that you love to give. I saw that in you several years back when I met you at one of the conferences, just a total giver. So love that. So what is Tony's next? What are you looking to accomplish maybe in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think that, on the personal side, I always say, one does not find their limits until they search for them. And the harder you search, the harder they are to find, because it's kind of like the farther you can see out, the farther you can see out. And so, as you continue to go down the path, it's interesting. I don't know on the personal side what distance or whatever I'll finally decide is enough on the racing. But
keep going.
You got oceans, so you'll have to.
There is a Facebook group called the USA Crossers, and it's about 3,400 miles to get from one coast to the next.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the thought of that.
But on the business side, I think there's being in the space that I'm in now, where I'm not day-to-day managing properties. I can really focus on what's going on in the industry, the trends, the technology outside of the industry that could be impactful inside. And as I mentioned before, the 36 months to extinction or evolution, like if you're sticking your head in the sand now and you're operating the same 36 months from now, the way you are now, you're on your way out of business. You just don't know it.
Yeah.
And so to carry the loudspeaker and be out there sharing with other people how to cut a path in this industry and still make a difference, that's kind of what's next for me.
Awesome. Well, we have a lot of property managers that are on the show that listen, and if they want to work with you, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so they could just email me at tony@pmsuccess.com. And, or, they can find me on Facebook. It's Tony Cline with a C. I'm always there doing something, whether it's on the business side or on the running side. So
Yep.
you can find me either place.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you being on the show today. You're a wealth of knowledge, being in the industry that long. Thank you again for joining us inside the Wolf's Den. Yeah,
and we'll have all your info in the show notes and how they can contact you. But again, we appreciate you, and good luck on these next couple of races. So
yes.
I'm sure we'll be
we'll be following you for sure and be cheering you on.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
All right.
Thank you.
See you next time.
You've been listening to Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle. Tons of entrepreneurial podcasts are out there. Talking. But Joni and Shawn are living it every single day. Their portfolio now includes many franchises and medium-sized businesses. We talk about the trials and motivators of successfully running a business. Join us again soon for another podcast. But until then, reach out on the website at InsideTheWolfsDen.com, on Facebook at Inside the Wolf's Den, on Instagram at Inside the Wolf Den. We'll see you again soon. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. We'll see you next time.